day, Your Honor.
Good morning.
I want to start out by thanking you for giving us a fair trial. I want to thank the jurors for the amount of time that they put in to judge this trial. This time being on this trial, I was able to see how the jurors are put in a tough position to, sit there and judge someone's life, and, it's a hard decision, and I feel like they made the wrong judgment. I've done things in my life. I'm not perfect. But the things I've been accused of, I know that I haven't done those things. I know it's typical for a person to come up here and, show remorse to, the crimes that they have done, but I can only show remorse to the people that I know that was in this trial, which is Kiara Adams, Deanna Sanders, and Jasmine Brown. Not remorse on behalf of like I did anything to them, because if you know me, and people who really know me know that I wouldn't force anybody to do anything. I met women, I dated women who were doing escort or whatever, however people want to look at it from a moral standpoint, but who was doing these things as a grown woman. I've only dealt with grown women. Nothing was forced. Nothing was coerced or anything of that nature. If you notice, before this trial, no woman can say anything about me before this trial. If you notice, before this indictment, no woman can say anything about me before this indictment. I get the situations that people are put in when they're faced with a certain type of crime or a certain type of time, and they're bullied into this situation to put the blame on someone, or to put the blame on cashout, or to put the blame on someone who's at the top. That's why I didn't really fault them for their decision. I didn't fault Deanna Sanders for making her decision during the proffer. She just had a child. Mind you, she was just on video call with me while being incarcerated. I don't fault Kiara Adams for doing the things she did with her proffer, because mind you, she was facing a certain amount of time handling her probation in different cases that she's on. I don't fault people for making accusations, because I'm a man that typically let women leave on their own behalf. Never held them in prison or held them in slavery or said, you can't leave me, or you can't do this. Every woman you've seen come on this stand showed you that they left and came back willingly on their own. What I mean by that, they left on their own and they came back willingly on their own. During this trial, I was able to see, how valuable life is, and how valuable the people that you hang around, or the people that you even date, or the people that you even know, how valuable it is to judge their character. Sometimes I let people stay around who I knew was going to affect a situation that I had going on. So I don't, and for the people who came to this trial that I never met a day in my life, never had any contact with them, never had a text message with them, never had an interaction with them, don't even know where most of these stories came from, is baffling. Never forced a woman to commit a sexual act. I've been traveling all around the world from here to Dubai, and you would never hear a woman say that I forced them to do anything sexual or commit a rape with anybody. I don't hang around people that do things of that nature. I feel like, and somebody asked me this the other day, it was like, every time I see your head high, you always smiling, because when you have that confidence, it takes me back to the Bible. When you have that confidence and you know you can be falsely accused of things. Jesus was falsely accused. A lot of the prophets were falsely accused. You don't have that emotion like you've done something. So if you see me with my head high, or if you see me smiling, it's because I know at the end of the day, through Jesus Christ, the Most High will always give you the actual judgment. So I really thank you for providing us a fair trial. Just me getting to know you during trial, I was like, she's just a judge. But when you sit 12 people in that panel and you have them, judge our lives and, put them in a position to judge our lives, it takes you back to, once again, the Bible when people had to judge these prophets' lives. And I say, if you know me, you actually know me. There's plenty of people that know me in this world. There's plenty of people that know me in this jail. There's plenty of people that know me where I'm from. Like I said, once again, I'm not perfect. I come from certain areas. I come from, certain environments. I come from doing things in my past life before the music. But I'm here to tell you that if you sat in this trial and you paid attention to this trial, before these dates, no woman could ever say, I've done those things to them. Before these dates, you can go on my Instagram and see these women enjoying themselves, having their own things, living their own life. Before these dates, I can say you had these women that never had anything to say about you. Before this indictment, before the RICO, you had these women actually talking to me while I was incarcerated. I've been incarcerated for 4 years, and these women are interacting with me. These women who took the stand and supposedly scared of me or monsters or I'm a monster or took these proffers. This wasn't the case before they was indicted. So from my perspective, I feel like some people can get bullied into a situation that they don't really want to do. And I'm sitting here just holding my head high.
The Atlanta rapper known as Cashout will spend the rest of his life in prison.
That's right. So after a jury convicted him of rape, sex trafficking, keeping a place of prostitution, and a whole lot more, 11 Live's Grace King joins us live from the newsroom. And Grace, you were in the courtroom as all that drama unfolded. What stood out to you?
Well, Ron, I cover a lot of court, and typically if a defendant talks during sentencing, they'll show remorse or ask for leniency. Cashout didn't do any of that and instead claimed the victims who came forward were bullied into doing so. On Monday, John Michael Gibson took the mic one final time, not as the well-known rapper Cashout, rather as a convicted felon fighting for a chance at freedom.
You can be falsely accused of things. Jesus was falsely accused of. One day, the truth will come out that these things never happened.
A jury found him guilty on roughly a dozen charges, including RICO, rape, and sex trafficking.
It's never behind me. It's always with me, even in my sleep and my subconscious. It changes you. It shakes you to the core.
Several victims and their families shared stories of the trauma they still endure.
Using his one-hit wonder status to steal their person. He and his mom literally stole the souls of all the women that they victimized.
The judge said the state proved those victims' stories beyond a reasonable doubt and showed no leniency as she sentenced Cashout, his mother, and his cousin to decades in prison.
Court heard and viewed evidence demonstrating the very worst of human behavior toward other human beings.
His cousin expressed disappointment over the outcome.
And I didn't do.
Mama Cashout said she'd accept whatever fate she deserved.
When the verdict came in, I wasn't angry at all. Not at all. I was so sorry for the victims. And I pray for them and will continue to pray.
Now, I did speak with one of the jurors after court earlier today. She told me it was a tough case to hear, but that she's confident in their guilty verdict.
All right, Grace, thanks a lot. By the way, we did reach out to the Fulton County DA's office for their reaction to today's sentencing, but we have not heard back just yet.
It's Jay Carfy on the vid. And quite the speech there from rapper Cashout after getting slayed with life plus 70 years in prison. His cousin was also convicted, life plus 70, and Mama Cashout, 30 years. You heard the news reporting, you heard it all. You heard them saying that they felt he didn't show any remorse. What did everyone think about his speech that he gave to the judge? And did you follow this case? This was a state RICO, which is what we saw with the YSL case, which was a cold mess. And at the end of the day, like, nothing came out of that case, that state RICO. And this state RICO, which they say, or not say, it's been proved now. It's not just allegations. I'm sure there'll be appeals and all that. They got their conviction. But the mom crying and saying she feels for the victims on a daily basis and prays for them. But Cashout referenced the Bible and actually in a way compared what happened to him to what happened to Jesus. In a sense, it's happened, and let me know if you felt it that way, like he was saying that as well. I'm not saying exactly he's like, I'm getting crucified like Jesus, but he just referenced the Bible numerous times. But he just basically, in a nutshell, in my opinion, said that these women were all grown, that tactics of violence or coercion or manipulation or being forced in any way when it comes to pimping and stuff like that, he said he claims he didn't use any of those tactics, that these 3 female victims continued to have contact with him, and that they were bullied through proffer sessions and just being faced with this RICO case, being mothers and having kids and just looking at a gang of time. Which, speaking of time, I don't know how much time these women were looking at that he claims they all just flipped after being bullied, through the criminal conspiracy case, the time that they were facing, more or less like, hey, if you testify, you're good to go, but if not, it's going to be a big problem. But speaking of time, when you see him get hit with such a crazy amount of time, life plus 70, it makes me wonder, I wonder what they came at him with a plea bargain, and it was 25 years. 25 years they offered him, which he's wishing he took that 25, but he told them, nah, I want to see my day in court. And he saw his day in court and still said that he had a fair trial. He said it was a fair trial. Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know. What do y'all think, man? As he was also convicted of rape, convicted on numerous charges. This indictment was re-indicted, and they basically said and have now proved in court that he used his LLC, what was it called, like Pyrex Music or something like that, and the Cashout name and brand to lure women into this lifestyle, this flashy, glamorous lifestyle, and then, forced or groomed them into prostitution. And I remember this when it hit the headlines. Rapper and mom charged in prostitution ring. I remember the media pushing that he was pimping his own mama. I don't believe that was what it was. I'm not quite sure, but you guys see what it was, man. They ran wild on him. They offered him 25 years. I want my day in court. He got his day in court, and after the conviction, the attorney said, let us get 30 years. Don't give him a penalty, a trial penalty, which typically in instances in which someone is offered a deal and goes to trial and it is convicted, they get maxed out, and they maxed them out, as in the state of Georgia with the grape. I believe you can get hit with life, but on top of this was a RICO case. a criminal enterprise of prostitution. And we heard the victims, you heard them too, they said, oh, he used his one-hit wonder status to lure us in. But Cashout's talking about these women all were bullied into this, etc. That's kind of the opposite of saying that it was a fair trial, right? Do y'all feel me on that? Like, I mean, saying, hey, you gave me a fair shake, Your Honor, but then saying the everyone was bullied into this. I don't know, like, comment your thoughts. As you also heard a juror talking about how they feel they got the verdict right. Crime just doesn't pay, and obviously, like, you see someone have this kind of success and end up in this situation, it's bonkers. You know what I mean? Smash hit song, like that song was crazy viral or in crazy rotation, and here he is now. I think that was like 2012, 2013, somewhere in that time frame, and here he is 12 years later. Life plus 70. Comment your thoughts about it all again if you follow the case, and what you thought about his speech to the judge. If you think that was just some slick pimping talk or whatever. Obviously, though, you know, I don't think dude believed there was any way he was going to talk his way up out of it. But then you see the mother speaking about her sadness and prayers for the victims. Very opposite reactions from co-defendants, mother and son. But man, I really did not think to see an outcome like this when I originally saw this case hit the headlines. Obviously, a state RICO, Georgia being one of the few states that has the RICO statute on a state level. And I think Fannie was in power when this indictment came through as well. As you know, she was criticized with the YSL case. They just had too many witnesses, co-defendants, tying it together with social media, etc. In this case, they got their conviction and then handed out between him and the cousin 2 lifetimes, 2 life sentences, 130 with their 275s, or no, I'm sorry, 150 with their 275s put together, and then 30 for mama. So that's 2 lives and $180